Hey world, welcome to the Nola Experience podcast. I am your host, Nola, and this guy bobbing his head for the people who are watching, that's Mr. Melee.
What's goody? What's
Listen,
up?
when I listen back to this podcast, I'm so tired of hearing myself say, "Hey world, welcome to the Nola Experience."
Why?
I feel like I'm like one of those people at an auction. Hey world, welcome to the
Welcome to the roller experience. Come back, $5, $6.
uh,
Well, that's the name of the game.
any sponsors? Come on in.
Gotta do
200.
what you gotta do.
Do I hear 300?
$200 comes sponsored on Roller Experience. $300. We got five. We got $500 come to sponsor on Roller Experience. Oh.
Yeah, by now we need some sponsors. Holla, guys. Thank you.
Holla holla.
I love your shirt, man.
Yeah, me too.
Love this shirt. It looks so good.
It's vibrant.
It's very vibrant. I love it.
Yeah, it's a nice position too. It's the perfect position, right on the chesticles, right there.
The chesticles.
I make up words from time to time.
Wow. That
It's a
sounds too
thing.
familiar. No, chesticles sounds too familiar. Can we like modify that so it doesn't sound too much like testicles?
Well, that's what it is. It's the upper. Okay, never mind. Never mind.
So anyway,
Yeah, what's up?
I wanted to talk about when we hear the phrase mental health, that's like a key topic right now. It's
It's
like
taboo.
it's taboo, but it's kind of like the whole self-care thing. Now we use it so much, we say it so much to the point where we it's gotten so watered down and is being misused, not really taking away from the importance of it, but I feel like the fact that we've been hearing mental health so much that with everything else we kind of become numb to it, and we kind of we don't really understand like what do we mean by mental health. It's really,
Hmm.
in my opinion, just the same as if you fall down and you break your arm, you're not going to sit there in your house. Well, maybe there's one or two of you that would do that shit, but you're not going to sit there in your house and just hold on to it and just be in this pain
Yeah.
for whatever amount of time that would
Hmm.
last. You would immediately go and get yourself checked out. You would go to a doctor.
Hmm.
And I feel like when it comes to our emotions, when it comes to our mental space, we don't do the same thing.
That's true.
We'll have these mental things going on, and we'll sit with it and nurse it, like the Guyanese people would say. We would nurse it and grow it,
Hmm.
um, and turn it into an adult, send it to school, give it a career, and just have it become our like boss. It
Yeah.
becomes your it runs your life
Uh-huh.
sometimes. So how do you feel about therapy?
Well, I am definitely super open to it now. And even though I say that, I have not gone to therapy ever. I do plan on it. Actually, me and my lady were speaking about getting therapy for us, and oddly enough, everything is good right now. We're actually in a very good place, but I still want us to get therapy so that we stay in that good place. So that's something we've been talking about. I might do solo therapy sessions for myself just to see what's going on up there. I feel like I'm fine, but you never know. Check it out, get a little checkup, see what's up. What's up. But I also feel like, and I was gonna ask you, I feel like for a long time, well, now, like I was saying, it's becoming a lot more acceptable, but for a long time, it has been taboo. Mental health has been taboo, and going to see a therapist and talking to someone about your emotions and your feelings and what you're thinking has been taboo. Why do you think that is, especially in Black culture? Why do you think that is?
Well, for a very long time, especially within the media world, when we saw or heard of people getting mental help, it's commonly people who have these immense mental disturbances, right? If you're watching a movie or you're seeing it on TV, you see a person maybe in a straitjacket. You see this person who is just highly deviant or just neurotic, or doing these crazy things. And I think we've just been conditioned to believe that you have to be in that type of space
Mm,
before you actually seek out
yeah.
mental help. um,
Like those are the only, like our mindset has been programmed to be like those are the only people who need therapy, people who look and act like that.
yeah, it has to be some type of immense disturbance going
Mm-hmm.
on where you're so quote unquote crazy, which is a word that I do not use to describe people whose mental state I don't understand.
Mm,
You're you have to be crazy, or something really significant has to be going on with you before you need that. And people look at themselves like, that's not happening with me. Like, I'm checking down the boxes. Am I seeing things? Am I
mm,
banging my head against a wall? Am I,
mm-hmm.
doing these crazy antics? No, I'm not. So I don't need therapy. And really, therapy is not just for people who have these deep emotional scars or these deep mental disturbances. It's also, a lot of therapists really focus on helping you cope with day-to-day things. Unfortunately, it's so weird. I don't like to use the word unfortunately because I believe everything is good. Everything happens for a reason. But what I will say is, um, as a whole, I feel like humans we're not in touch with self.
Mm-hmm.
We have been programmed to just depend on so many external things. And because that's how we've been programmed, we're like computers. Essentially, we are like computers. If you program a phone to do certain things, or take in certain commands and perform a certain way, these are the things that your phone will do. Like, your phone is not going to get up and walk and go flip an egg
Do
for
anything
you.
extra.
Right, because it's programmed to just do those phone functions, make calls, text, whatever. If you have a smart TV, your TV is programmed to help you view programs and maybe play video games or these different things. Your laptop, same way. And it's the same thing with humans. Like, when you have certain information that's coming into your head, and information means experiences. If you speak to somebody, if somebody hits you, if you hit somebody, if you witness a crime, if you grew up in a situation where maybe there was a parent missing, or um, you lost someone that was really close to you, a loved one, or you were bullied in school, or whatever, the situation is. Maybe you lost your job, you were homeless for a little while. When you take in this information, again, information means experiences. When you take in this information, you're being programmed, whether you acknowledge it or you're conscious of it or not. You're being programmed. And when that programming comes in, the human mind is specifically designed to create an environment, a perspective based on these experiences. So, because have you ever seen, a dog that was abused by an owner, and then all of a sudden it just doesn't trust people? If
Uh-huh.
you And even with abused people, like, if you raise your hand to give them a high five,
They flinch.
they flinch, they think you're going
Yeah.
to hit them. That right there is programming. They've had very specific experiences that put them in this space where they now feel threatened by things that are non-threatening,
Uh-huh.
because that's how the information came in prior. um if you're in a situation where you have, let's say, as a child, your parents, elders, or guardians, they touch you in a loving way constantly, they tell you they love you all the time, you have a higher chance of feeling like you're loved. And it's the same with any experience. Whatever information you're taking in, it really morphs your mind, and it turns you into a very specific type of person based on that information.
Mhm.
And I think we overlook that. So yes, we're taking in all of this information, but because we're out of touch with self, a lot of times we don't know how to process that information. One very specific thing within our cultures that really cuts us off from knowing how to process ourselves is when people tell children, very young children, not to cry. You might have a child crying, and you're telling them not to cry because you don't know how to handle this crying. Like, this crying, it
Mhm.
makes you uncomfortable, it disturbs you. So now your reaction to it is to stop it so you can feel comfortable. And of course, that comes from your experiences as well, how you're programmed. And when you keep telling a person, don't be mad, don't be sad, don't
Yeah.
cry, stop doing that. Now, as a child, remember, this kid is being programmed, right? They're
Uh-huh.
learning how to be. And you're inadvertently cutting them off from these feelings. So if a person has all of these emotions, and we identify emotion with anything soft, we think crying means emotion, we think
Mhm.
empathy is emotional, we
Mhm.
think if you're being soft or
Mhm.
compassionate, we feel like that's emotional. And then we
Or wanting help.
or wanting help, exactly.
Mhm.
Especially when you ask for help, they
Yeah.
they label you as emotional, and this emotional vibe, it comes with this connotation that's negative, right? All of a sudden you're like a subhuman, you're not
Mhm.
you're not on my level because you
You're an
cry too
other.
much.
A lesser, yeah, too, yeah.
You're another. And one thing that I tell people all the time, especially people with anger issues who are aggressive, who snap, and they feel like, you know this is the man, or she don't play that. These people who are overly or hyper aggressive, and they lash out a lot, we don't label them emotional because we don't remember that anger is an emotion. And anybody who snaps a lot, you're always angry, you're very aggressive, you are the most emotional out of all of us, because you're displaying your emotion every time you're triggered.
Mhm.
um and there's nothing wrong with that. What's happening is you're in touch with a feeling. And let me just make this clear. Your emotions is, we're all on this journey to be closer to God, right? We're all on this journey to be closer to the source. And let me just remind everybody, just in case you never learned this or you forgot, your emotions is how you get there. Learning what your feelings are on the inside is how you get more in touch with self. So
Mm.
imagine somebody, a certain type of stimulation, uh, you know, y- you're having this experience, some type of stimulation, and you don't process it at all. That means you're not emotional at all. You're out of touch with self. And you can't get close to the source if you're out of touch with self. These emotions really tell you what's going on the inside. So if somebody yells at you, if somebody hits you, or there are some people who are completely cut off. Like, you hit them, you do this, and they just stand there looking at you like that ain't nothing. Even some kids are like that.
Yeah.
I know you've probably seen that. To
Uh-huh.
me, that's like you're on your way to death, like you're already starting to die,
Inside, yeah.
because what's happening on the inside of you, you're completely cut off from it. So the
Mhm.
point that I'm trying to make is, we have been programmed to be out of touch with self, and because many of us are so out of touch with self, we we don't know how to solve our own problems. We don't know how to make decisions based on intuition. we're very indecisive, and we make a lot of rash decisions, and then we end up feeling like, damn, I'm always messing up. I don't know what to do. I always do the wrong things. And then of course people will not hesitate to tell you that you're messing up.
Yeah.
And it really dampers your self-worth. It really snatches your self-esteem out of you. And obviously self-love, that in itself is one of the reasons why I am an advocate for seeing a therapist or getting therapy, because that's another thing that therapists do. They don't only treat these neurotic people who are banging their heads against a wall, they treat people who don't know what to do. You know, if you need
Hmm.
help, if you need help with parenting, if you need help, listen, if you have a child and you're always irritated, the crying makes you irritated. um a lot of us don't understand children. We don't understand that kids are not being bad, they're being kids.
Sure.
It's really you who don't know how to process that. And
Hmm.
if you're having that experience, a therapist might be a good choice for you, because hey, here's somebody who can help you get in touch with maybe your inner child and help you connect
Yeah.
with your child more. If you're going through a divorce, if you lost your job, and um, maybe you become homeless and have some type of traumatic experience being on the street or living with somebody else,
Yeah.
you will not believe like the amount of things that you can go to therapy for. And it's really just to help you cope and help
Yeah.
you um make decisions. So what is your reason? Because you said, I'm open to therapy now, so it just sounds like before it wasn't an option. So what was your mindset or your views on it prior, and why did you change?
Yeah, I think it was what I was saying before. Like, it just automatically, I felt like it was taboo. It was like, I was taught and kind of, I guess, programmed to handle my own problems. Like, like I got to deal with it myself. So, especially me, I've always been the type of person to internalize everything. That has been like my struggle. And that's even why I'm even now thinking that maybe I should get therapy, because I've always been that type of person. Like, any problems I have, I internalize it until I explode. And I would always have these tantrums, like, a lot when I was a lot younger. I would have these tantrums, but it would be like, it wouldn't be as frequent, but it would be from things that I've held on for like maybe months or even years, and then let it build up. And then once it gets to a certain point, it's like boom, and then everybody's looking like, where did that come from? Like, it ain't that serious, but not knowing that I've been holding on to this shit for like a year now. So, but I think it was yeah, really just that idea that you're, especially being a black male, it's like you handle your business. I mean, so anything that's my business, I gotta handle it. You know, don't speak to anybody about it. And even my family and friends, there's a lot of things that I haven't spoken to them about, and put my emotions and what I'm thinking and how I'm feeling out on the table. And now just being, I guess, just it becoming a frequent topic of conversation, like that's coming up all the time. People are becoming aware and woke to therapy and getting help. uh, I'm starting to understand, like, yeah, okay, it's okay, it is okay to talk about how I feel and speak with someone else about it. So
Yeah, of course, it's perfectly fine. Like you're struggling with something, and
sure.
here's somebody who was trained to
Hmm.
help you get through that struggle. Why aren't
Yeah.
we asking for help? Like you ask for help if you need to put together a desk or whatever. You call
Hmm.
your friend up, hey, come by, help me put together this desk. There are
Sure.
certain things conceptually that you're not able to put together in the mind, and there are people
Hmm.
who are trained and educated on helping you put those things together. But I think another thing that I discovered maybe a year ago, I said something to my mom, and when she reacted, I was like, yo, okay. I used the word trauma. And I mentioned to my mother, that I've experienced a lot of trauma. And when she kind of looked at it like, okay, that was me, like I'm experiencing this trauma. But then I'm like, you did too, mom. She was looking like, what?
Mhm.
Kind of like, no,
Like,
I did.
no, I
She,
didn't.
yeah, like, no, I didn't.
Not even knowing.
Yet not really understanding that, like, we feel like trauma is, again, this deeply disturbing mega event that
Yeah.
just that looks crazy,
Mhm.
when really trauma could come from so many different areas, so many different angles. Somebody might snatch your purse walking down the street,
Mhm.
and you have no idea how in the next 10 years this is morphing the chemicals in your brain and
Yeah.
morphing how you perceive the world, how you react. You probably end up having a bunch of combative situations and
Yeah.
relationships because of it, and you don't realize, like, you're traumatized. So one really cool thing that the brain does, which um I'm going to tell you guys something that I have been thinking about over the last 5 years, but the brain does something really, really phenomenal, right? Like, we are phenomenal beings. The things that our bodies do, like intuitively, just this high level of intelligence.
Mhm.
Um, when you have a traumatic experience, whether it's little, big, whatever, the mind, the brain, has this mechanism in place that protects you from it. It tries to shift in ways to protect you from that experience and to protect you from the bad memories. Now, have you ever heard of the show Mr. Robot?
Yes, I've heard of it. I haven't seen it, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
I feel like I might have asked you this on another episode. I feel like
I
we
don't
had
think
this
so.
discussion.
Mr. Robot?
Yeah. So Mr.
Maybe.
Robot, there's this the main character Elliot. He basically he he's a programmer. He's this genius hacker, and the part of the story that I like the most, yes, they focus on his job and all of these different conflicts he's having with these corporations, but he also has dissociative disorder, which is I guess you can call it like multiple personality disorder, where he goes into these different personalities and they show you him switching into these different personalities. Now, he
Mm.
had one experience that, I've been watching this show for years, but there's this one episode, this one experience that just stands out to me because I learned a lot just from watching, just in that 10-minute span. I learned a lot about the mind. Now, he was in this situation where he's being beaten, like beaten, brutalized, just fucked up, right?
Mm.
And all of a sudden, the all of a sudden we see him sitting in a car with his family. The lighting changed. All of a sudden, it's colorful. It looks happy. It looks cheerful. He's with his family. They're in a car and he's in a sitcom. Now I'm sitting there like,
Uh,
the fuck are y'all doing? Like,
uh,
how is he in a sitcom now? Come to find out, he has the ability of, and this is what the mind does, right? The mind can do this. He he did not consciously do this. I guess because of his disorder, it's easier for him to switch. So he completely did not experience that beating. He
oh.
did not experience that they knocked him unconscious, like he was gone. They beat him that bad. He did not experience that at all. He switched into another space where he's just experiencing this sitcom life with his family.
Ah,
Yeah, and it's all colorful and beautiful.
that's cool.
Now, that's an extreme example of what I mean by the mind just kind of cutting things off or shifting in a way that protects us from these bad memories or these bad
Mm.
experiences, right?
Yeah.
um and I discovered, which is another reason why I was like, I definitely need to go to therapy. This is going to sound unbelievable because I still can't process it, but I do not remember my childhood. I
Like how far? Like from what age?
I don't remember anything. There are very specific events that stand out. And I'm thinking probably up to the time I came to this country. But there are very significant events that stand out that I remember. But the basic things I don't remember. And I started discovering this in 2012 when I went to Guyana, and I put together this like family day, like family game night, and all my family came over. And one thing that we like to do is reminisce a lot. So we're just talking about everything. And my cousins are telling me story after story after story after story. And I'm like, I don't remember any of that. I don't remember.
Hmm.
I don't remember. And I didn't want to take this lightly and just brush it off and think, oh, I was a kid. I just don't remember, because they remember. They remember everything in detail.
Yeah.
Um, and sometimes I'm like, wow, how many times am I going to say, no, I don't remember that. I don't remember that person. I don't remember doing that.
Uh,
After a while, maybe 5 years ago or so, it dawned on me that I've had so many traumatic experiences that my mind has figured out how to just move them into a compartment, like store them somewhere, so I'm not remembering them. But what also ended up happening, I feel like I forgot the other things too.
like anything that's connected with those traumatic experiences,
No,
or it's
it's
just everything in general. It's just like they
yeah.
just sweeping everything into the folder. Like,
Absolutely. And I
wow.
feel like I ended up forgetting so much because I somehow developed this ability to store these traumatic events somewhere. And then I ended up sweeping the other events
With it.
in into the darkness with it. But the thing
Uh,
about that is, even when you're able to do that, you probably don't even remember the trauma that you experienced. Even when you're able to do that, it's still there. You
mm-hmm.
know, it's like a
The
rat.
effects of it.
Absolutely. It's like a rat dying in your house. You don't see it, it's under
You
the
smell
floor,
it.
but you can still smell it. And it's like, okay, why?
Stanky.
Yeah, you stankin'. Why do I have an attitude?
uh,
Why am I angry all the time? Why am I antisocial? Why do I not want to be around people? Why is it that certain people I don't click with them? Sometimes we're like, my spirit don't techie, which really means like I don't feel your vibe. Like your vibe and my vibe doesn't click.
okay.
Sometimes it's because of something traumatic you experienced based on a person like this person, and you don't even remember.
Mm,
You don't remember that that's what you're doing. So
yeah.
that's my experience with that. And one day I started dating a guy who kept pushing the issue of me getting in touch with my father, because one, I met him at age 19, and
Mm,
then I cut him off like around age 25 because I did not like the way he was handling certain really important things. And then 13 years had went by, and no, 13 years had went by after meeting him, and I'm dating this guy, and he says, I think you need to get in touch with your dad. I think you need to have a relationship with your father. And he kept pushing the issue and pushing the issue. And then finally, I decided that, I'm going to do it, because my relationship or lack of relationship with my father was directly affecting how I handled my romantic relationships.
mm,
It was very evident. And I remember the guy that I was dating, one day we were sitting in the car, and he turned to me and he said, I can tell you've never had a man take care of you. Like, I can tell that you've never had a strong man that really stood there and protected you, because you're so hell bent on protecting yourself that
mm,
when people come in and they try to offer you anything that looks remotely like protection, you take it as an insult. Like, that,
Mm.
now you're invading my space. Why are you telling me what to do? Why are you doing this? Really,
Yeah.
what he was doing is, as a businesswoman, he was giving me a lot of guidance. And I mentioned this guy before, and I mentioned that he became like a business mentor to me. And he was giving me all of these gems and offering me so much, and I didn't know how to accept it because I was just so used to just being on my own doing certain things. And of course,
Mm.
that's coming from this, we can call it traumatic
Trauma. Yeah.
relationship or lack of relationship with my father.
Mm.
So really what I'm trying to say is, I think every person needs a therapist. I
Yeah.
think absolutely every person needs, the same way how people would like to get a mentor, or you need a school teacher to help you navigate these academics. It's the same way how, because we're so out of touch with self, we need support in
Sure.
navigating certain things. And I don't want people, you know what, save this whole narrative about we got God. You don't need a therapist, you got God. Pray on it. I get that.
Mm.
I pray, I
Yeah.
meditate, I do a lot of things. But at the end of the day, nothing I did really prepared me or helped me to understand that things that happened when I was 4 years old was still affecting me at 34 years old.
Sure.
Things that happened when I was born, the situation that you're born into really affects how you experience life as a baby. And that's really when it starts. Whether or not your mother talked to you, whether or not your parents had deep vocabulary and they taught you words, um,
Mm-hmm.
how people, if you were fed on time, if you were malnourished, if whatever situation that happened when you were a baby, it absolutely affects you into your whole life. And a lot of us have had
Yeah.
negative experiences. Um, I
Yeah. I have.
started,
I'm
go
sorry. Go
ahead.
ahead. No,
No.
you got it. No, I was gonna touch on what because something clicked to me. I think you were saying something about like trauma, like and I think people we were talking about how people try to make trauma seem as it has to be something major, and it has to be something that's like super obvious and impactful for you to be like, oh yeah, that's trauma. And I was thinking about my own experience and how when I was born in Queens. When I lived in Queens, I was always super active and like vibrant and very talkative and open, very open. And especially when I went to school, I had a lot of friends and stuff. And then we got robbed. Our house got robbed when we took a trip one time, and our house got robbed. And we came back, and all of our stuff was gone, and my parents decided for us to move. So when we moved to Long Island, for some reason, and I for years and years I could never pinpoint why, but we once we moved to Long Island and I started school here in Long Island, I became a mute. I did not speak to anyone. Like I was known as the quiet kid, like the quiet kid of the whole school, and that was from 6th grade until maybe like 11th grade. I was super quiet. And it never dawned on me. It never, because I was just like, it was always so weird to me that I was literally 1 year in 5th grade. I was the happiest, brightest, most talkative kid. And then the next year, nothing. And it took someone to say it out loud to me one day that when they used to move around a lot, and it became a traumatic experience. And then it clicked on me like, dang, I think that's what happened to me. Like something about that move was traumatic for me. And it only happened to me. It didn't happen to my brothers. My brothers, they were completely fine. They didn't really seem like they changed much. But for some reason, that experience traumatized me. Moving to a new neighborhood, having to get new friends, seeing new people, new things, I couldn't adjust. And it took me years to get out of that. And like it was just so weird. And then, like I was saying, when I got much older, probably in my 20s and way out of high school, I was like, it clicked in me, and it was like, damn, I think that was like trauma. I experienced some type of trauma with that. And I just it never clicked on to me, because I think I was thinking about what you were saying about thinking that trauma, it wasn't that big of a deal. And I mean, or it didn't seem like that big of a deal. We just moved. So it wasn't like something like I got molested or something. But so I didn't associate it with trauma and associate it with something that would kind of shift my whole mindset, but it did. Something
Wow.
so seemingly insignificant shifted my whole personality. It's crazy.
That's incredible. And
Yeah.
I'm so happy that you mentioned that, because that's precisely what I'm talking about. And I think something that I want to make clear that I do not subscribe to. I do not subscribe to um, people who look at other people's experiences and try to tell them whether that experience is big or not.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I'm drinking a cup of tea, you can't tell me the temperature. You know, you can't.
Preach.
And you simply cannot tell another person what their
Mm-hmm.
experience is. You can't tell them it's if it's big. You can't tell them it's small. You can't tell them it's not a big deal, because you are not aware of the string or the sequence of events that took place
Mm-hmm.
from the time that person was born up until the moment that you're encountering them, and how
Mm-hmm.
that sequence of events really molded them, and how their very unique
Mm-hmm.
mind reacts
Exactly.
to stimulus. Like you don't know,
Mm-hmm.
um or how it's stimulated, rather. You don't know, or you can't know how another
Yeah.
person experienced the world. You cannot know how another person experienced the world. You
Mm-hmm.
cannot know how another person experiences the world. You
Mm-hmm.
can't.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that one more time.
You
You And I'm
cannot
not saying you
know.
shouldn't, you won't, you don't.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
You can't. It's impossible to know how another person sees the world, even when you've had the same experience and you have
Yeah.
ideas like, okay, I get this, it hurts. Oh, I get this burns. Oh, I get it, it feels soft, whatever. You don't
Mm.
know the exact chemical,
Yeah.
spiritual reaction that this person's having.
Yeah.
And you can never, ever, and should never, ever speak on it. Ever. The other thing that happens is, if you come into this space where you're now not speaking, and you are perceived as shy, or you're perceived as antisocial, or you're perceived as whatever. We put labels on people when we don't understand what they're going through or what they're
Mm-hmm.
experiencing. And I completely get that, but now that you're hearing this, now that you're learning this, you now have a responsibility to do this thing a little bit different. Because when we
Mm-hmm.
see people who are depressed, when we see people who have bad attitudes, they're loud, they're disrespectful, they're loners, they're antisocial, whatever we see people doing and we don't like, we stick this label on them and we further alienate them. And then for the ones who are not aware of what's happening with them, they probably feel like, wow, something is really wrong with me. And this is me speaking for myself as well, because I had a tremendous amount of anger issues, and they're not all gone. If
Mm-hmm.
you trigger me the wrong way right now, it can still come out. You know what I
Still
mean?
pop off.
It can still get smoky. So that's the thing. She has an attitude problem. Yeah, we get it, she has an attitude, but that's just a symptom. That's not the
Mm.
person. We don't know
Mm.
what string of events this person has experienced that brought them here.
Yep.
And I got this light bulb moment one day when my ex-boyfriend said to me, he's like, damn, you hate everything. I'm never going to forget that, because he was absolutely correct. I was constantly, I hate traffic. I hate when it rains. I hate when people dress like that. I hate the sound of that bus. I hate that I live next door to a school. Those kids are mad noisy. Like literally,
Mm.
that was me all the time. Like just
Wow.
complaining all the time. And when he said, you hate everything, everything changed. Sometimes you need
Mm.
people to snap you out of
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
And he said that, and I was like, wow. And then fast forward, maybe a little over 5 years after that relationship, I'm talking with another guy, not someone that I was dating, just a friend. And he said, yo, you love everything.
Oh, lit, lit.
Yeah, we were walking down the streets of Harlem at 4 o'clock in the morning. Why? We were out all night just talking. And he said, "Yo, you love everything." And when he said that, it took me right back to that first conversation with the guy that
Mm,
said I hated everything. I was
the
like,
shift.
yes, yes, I did it. I did it.
Uh,
That's really
did
important.
therapy help that process
I
or that
wasn't in
outcome?
I wasn't in therapy yet. I've just always been a person who was self-aware.
Yeah, yeah.
And I did think that the universe would whip my ass a little bit harder because I knew better. I always knew
Mm-hmm.
better. I was never making decisions that I was confused about. I knew I was doing something that was against what I felt inside,
Mm,
just to fit in or connect with people because I was antisocial. You know, I was the girl with the
yeah.
attitude. I was the aggressive girl, snappy, argumentative, combative. And not one person looked at me and said, "Wow, this girl is angry. Maybe something is wrong and maybe she needs help."
Yeah.
I just had surrounded by all these people who were saying, "You got attitude. What's wrong with you?" And
Mm-hmm.
they kind of put you down and further alienate you. And nobody once said, "Wow, this kid is depressed." Or this kid is anxious or whatever. Not once. I had to figure that out on my own. And let me tell you, I was on bed rest for 6 months in 2019, and being on that bed and having my all of my activities stop, everything that I was doing completely stopped. Now I was forced to face all of my shit. One day I was in that bed and I was like, "Nah, son, I need therapy."
Yeah.
Nah, I need to do it because I can't deal with these feelings. Like, yes, I understand things are going rough for me, but I shouldn't be this freaking distraught over it. Where is this stemming
Uh-huh.
from? And I started therapy on betterhelp.com. um
I was just looking into something like that today.
mhm, betterhelp.com. I started on that platform. I don't know if the Instagram social media algorithm was reading my mind, but I went on Instagram and that shit just popped up. "Hey, do you need therapy?" And I'm like, "Yes, I do. Thanks for reading my mind. What the fuck, you know?"
Mm,
So I
it's gonna
started.
be all over my algorithm today.
Yeah, it's recording it now. So
It's gonna be
I
all
started.
over.
I started with betterhelp.com, and yes, it was great. But I definitely walked into it with a wall up. I definitely
Mm-hmm.
walked into it with the fear that a lot of people have. I'm talking to this complete stranger, and I have to
Mm-hmm.
tell her my business. So I was not transparent enough. And that's a piece of advice that I have to give people. If you're going to get therapy, you have to be transparent. You have to be honest because remember, this person is there to help you. If you put up this wall and you're not telling them everything, they're getting bits and pieces of the story and they're not able to see the bigger picture and they're not able to give you full advice. You're getting a little piece of advice. And I shouldn't even say advice because by the way, I stopped doing betterhelp.com because I felt like the FaceTime thing wasn't best for me. I didn't like it. I wanted to, because there's so much typing happening, like we were just emailing back and forth, and that was too much for me. I felt like
Mm-hmm.
speaking with someone in person would be better because then I just get to talk, right?
Sure.
Um, and the I think the misconception that we have is that your therapist will give you advice and tell you what to do. They don't. Like mine doesn't. We go in, we have these conversations, and I think what she does is she asks very specific questions that will evoke specific thoughts.
Mm,
And when you start to talk and answer, you start to realize that you're helping yourself because that's
mm,
literally what therapy has been like for me. She'll ask
yeah.
me a question, and one thing that I struggled with was security. This one day we were talking about security, and we talked about me not feeling safe where I live, and me being surrounded by so many white people, a lot of them who were racist. And I said to her, like they don't even talk. Like when you come outside, they don't wave, they don't do this. And she asked me this question. She said, "You're feeling unsafe, right?" and you already have this demeanor about you, whereas I look really serious when I'm deep in thought, or I just have this resting bitch face where I just look mad for no reason. She
Uh,
said, do you think it's also possible that you're exuding this energy where they probably see you as unapproachable?
ooh.
And I was like, shit. Okay, so now I have to take responsibility for my interaction with these people. Not only are they who they are, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
also responsible, and I'm also complicit in this encounter and this experience.
Sure.
And
Sure.
that's what that's just one example of what therapy has been doing. When you feel like the world is doing all this shit to you, and then you get this clarity and you realize, like, yo, I am participating in having this experience. I also found them on Instagram. They're called Therapy for Black Girls. I don't think it's only for Black girls. You can definitely go on there and find a therapist if you're a man or you're a woman. I recommend it because they have a nice array of Black therapists, which I prefer. I prefer to talk to a person who understands certain things culturally,
Uh-huh.
and of course another woman will understand certain things. So therapyforblackgirls.com. I found them. I did my research. I went through all of these therapists, found one who I think is absolutely amazing. But then, you also have these people who go to therapy and they're like, but it's not working. Maybe it's not working because that's not the right fit for you.
Yes.
It's like any relationship, right?
Uh-huh.
You're saying something?
Oh no, I was just agreeing with you. Sorry.
Yeah, it's like any relationship. If it's not clicking, um you have to figure out why, and then you have to figure out, okay, am I going to see another therapist or not? Another reason why it might not be working is because you're not doing your work. You feel like, I'm going to go into this place, this person is going to save me. That's not how it works. You go in,
Uh-huh.
you're transparent, you're honest, and they ask you specific questions that will cause you to really think and reflect. And then you have to be honest with yourself too, and do your work. So a lot of times when it's not working, it's either you're seeing the wrong person or you're not showing up 100%. You have to be there 100%. So I lumped all of that in there really quickly, because we do have to head out. But Mele, I want to, give you an opportunity to, jump in and give any insight that you might have with, your perception on this whole topic, because you haven't gone the route yet. And I'm just speaking from a
Mm-hmm.
perspective of someone who's gone through some shit and then actually gone to therapy.
Yeah. Well, I definitely am gonna take the step towards getting, like I said, it's just getting checked out, like you were saying before, like any if you had a stomach ache or you had like you were feeling some type of ailments for a certain while, you would go get checked out. It may be nothing, but just to go get checked and see if everything's okay is important. So I'm definitely gonna get therapy, just to check my whole mind out and have someone take a look, and maybe they see something, maybe they don't, and just make sure we're good. But I think it's super important that we be more open, and like you were saying before, be self-aware. And I think a lot of times people think self-awareness is only like the positivity. And I like that point in what you were saying about you being self-aware that you were doing bad things too. Like that's super important, to be aware of you doing the negativity as well, because people are just like, oh yeah, I know that I do these wonderful things. It's like, no, sometimes you got to know the bullshit too. You got to know when you be on some bullshit, and you got to know when you're being an asshole. You got to know when you're being a jerk, and those are sometimes even more important than you knowing that you're a positive and a happy person. So I think let's just keep the conversation going in general, with each other, with therapists, with yourself. Keep asking the questions, and seek help in any way possible, because we all have traumas that I think we deal with, and we cannot begin to heal until we recognize those things and take that first step. So let's do it.
Absolutely agree. So you go for your 6 month checkup at your dentist. You have your annual checkup with your doctor. It's extremely important that you also check in with your mental health, because at the end of the day, every single thing that you experience starts in your mind. And if you're
Facts.
bruised, if you're fractured, if you're broken, um, it really warps a beautiful experience that you could be having. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
I think it's a beautiful thing to do for yourself. You know, you owe it to
Sure.
yourself to have a great and peaceful experience in this life. You know, who wants to be bogged down by these emotional disturbances or these past traumatic experiences that we didn't even know were affecting us? So
Sure.
do yourself that favor, pass it on to your friends, make sure your kids see a
Yeah.
therapist, and let's make this the norm. Let's make this a big part of our culture, the same way that we make going to the doctor for physical situations a part of our culture. So uh, I'm super excited to hear and see everybody starting to heal and really
Yeah.
blossoming and becoming successful in everything you do, because it does affect you in business, it affects you everywhere else. So
Absolutely.
thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Nola Experience podcast. You are my experience, and I am super ecstatic to be yours. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure you subscribe there as well, whether it's Spotify, Apple, wherever. And we love you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all. Much love. Peace.